how do you keep your audience engaged as a speaker? So it's still part of my Be an Awesome Speaker Week content. So people are asking questions about being a speaker, and I just did a speaker webinar yesterday, and people had tons of questions. And so one of the questions that comes up is, once you're on the stage, they introduce you, the music's playing, you're on the stage, there's 100 or 500 or 1,000 people in front of you. How do you keep them engaged as you're speaking? And so that's important for you to know as a speaker. So, obviously you've done all the work in your branding, you've done all the work with your prep, you've marketed yourself, you're there on stage now, you've prepared your PowerPoint, your slides, and hopefully you're prepared. That's the first thing. But now you're talking, how do you get them engaged? So here's a few things that I do to try to make sure that my audience is engaged. Number one, I'm a big fan of story arcing the content. So I'll start with talking about a story or an insight or a concept, and I'll bring it throughout, and I'll bring it up again halfway through my talk, and then also bring it up at the very end. Similarly, with an agenda, I'll also tell them what I'm going to tell them, then I tell them what I told them. And that way you hit them 3 times with the key insights of your talk so that they're going to be able to get what you're talking about. Another thing I'll do is keep it simple, because the truth is it's very hard to keep an audience engaged the longer you go. Now, if you do an entire day, that's different. An hour is different, and then also 10 minutes is different. So it depends on the type of talk that you're doing. But one of the things I'll do, let's say for a standard keynote, let's say that's an hour. One of the things I like to do is on my slides, I actually help direct them. So sometimes if I have a slide with information, I have at the very bottom my key takeaway. So I'll say, based on everything I just said, I've been talking for 2 minutes. Here's the key takeaway. If there's one thing I want you to remember from what I talked about, it's that. And so that way it keeps them engaged. And then, of course, there are other really classic ways, but things that people don't really realize how important they are. One is just the art of questioning. Getting the audience to ask a question that's a yes or no question, show of hands, or even, share with me your favorite such and such. One of the things I do in many of my keynotes is I say, I want everyone to yell at the top of their lungs their favorite movie of the year. And then so they all yell and they do it. And another thing I'll ask them is say, look, tell me your favorite, hottest celebrity that you're in love with. And then people yell, and we have a little bit of fun. And that engagement keeps them going. The other thing I do to keep the audience engaged is I actually take time to understand their insights. So I'll go sometimes I'll walk down to the audience, I'll go down there and I'll start chatting with them. And I like to get up close and say, hey, so tell me about your story. Okay, tell me about your challenge. What exactly is happening for you? Okay. And just that act of listening keeps the audience very engaged as well. And then, there's other things you do, like you can do lots of visuals, you can do video, audio tools. There's lots of things you can do to keep the audience engaged. And it's really great to, mix it up with different stuff. The last thing I do to keep the audience engaged is, no matter what kind of topic I'm talking about, I almost will always try to throw in an interactive activity. So I'll get everybody up out of their seats. Like when I do a networking keynote, that's a really easy one. I will definitely get them out of their seats, and I'll do one of my standard signature networking activities. And it gets them engaged, and they kind of like that. And even if you do 10 minutes of activity in an hour-long talk, again, it keeps the blood flowing, and they're kind of interested, and they want to hear what's going on. And then the last thing you do, and I'm throwing a ton of nuggets here, a lot of value bombs for you guys. The last thing I do is I say, look, at the very end, I'm going to share something with you that's going to be a huge value add, so stay tuned. And so that way, they're not tuning out and going on their phones and whatever and things like that. Although, if they go on their phones, I'll say, listen, why don't you tweet me using this hashtag and I'll respond. And I typically do. But I'll leave a nugget for them to listen to so that they're there listening very, very closely so that they can get to the end or somewhere in the middle of the end where I'm going to share something really helpful that's going to be value add for them. Maybe I'm going to share with them a free download or a copy of my book or something like that. So these are all things that I do to keep an audience engaged. But I'll tell you, the best things are always going to be your stories, your method, your energy, and taking the time to really listen to your audience. If you do those things, you're going to be a very engaging speaker. Now, if you have more questions on this, comment below. Let me know what you think. And for those of you, we had 120 registrations for my webinar on how to become a successful public speaker. And there was a ton of questions. And a lot of people were like, I missed it. I couldn't make it. And I said, well, if you sign up, you get the replay. But they didn't do that. So there's a lot of demand. I may do it again. I'm not sure. If I do, it's got to happen really soon because I'm trying to build some awareness around my speaker mastermind, which is launching in early November. So what I'll do is either I'll do the webinar again in entirety, or maybe if you message me privately, I can share with you a replay of that link, but that replay only lasts for 6 days. So just want to throw that out there. All right, what are your thoughts for how you keep an audience engaged when you're on stage and you're trying to make sure that they hear every word you say? All right, share that below, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.